Okay, this video is called Medical School in 10 Minutes. Where this comes from is I occasionally have medical students, they follow me around. It's called shadowing the doctor, okay? So it's always the same thing. You know, I like the medical students. They're kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. They want to learn something. They're eager to learn. They're enthusiastic. And it's kind of funny. I have like a little comedy routine with them. I'm like, I can read your mind. You know, you worked hard and you wonder why you don't know anything. Because I never know anything. I got like standard, 100 questions. They never answer any of them right. I've had one student in about 30 years answer one question correctly because their parents were OB-GYN and she was going into OB-GYN. Okay, so anyways, what happens with the medical trainees is they send them to college to do pre-med, and pre-med's really a joke. It's a fake education. It's really a filter to select people that have personalities like accountants. They're very, conservative. They're not going to take any risks, very conformist. They will follow and memorize anything you tell them to memorize, okay? And after you spend all that money on pre-med and it's not really good for anything else, you're pretty committed to the program. Same thing with med school. It costs, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to med school. So by the time you committed to that, you can't really step off the train, okay? You got to pay back all that debt. Most of them have a lot of debt. So because of that, they're going to stick with the program. And then the whole system is built that basically if you do what Big Pharma says, you do what Big Insurance says, you get paid. And if you do anything else, you don't get paid. So you got to pay off all your loans, and then you got to attract a woman, Why do men have jobs and women have Virginia? So they'll talk to each other. So you got to make some money if you want to have a wife and kids, and it's kind of fun to have kids. So you're basically take these people with the personality of an accountant and you put financial pressure on them, social pressure, etc., that they have to conform. Okay, so they, what they learn in med school is they memorize a bunch of rare stuff. It's mostly a waste of time. In residency, they just learn how to sell, drugs, sell lab tests, imaging tests, procedures, and surgeries. Okay, that's what it's about. So real quick, in 10 minutes, I always tell the medical students, right when I first see them, I said, look, I can teach you more in 2 hours than you learned in the last 7 or 8 years. And they always, look at me like they want to be polite. They figure this is an old Gomer doc. They don't want to embarrass him or say anything rude. And they kind of have this polite, yeah, right, buddy smile. By the time I'm done, they always say, thank you, yes, we did. They always learn more. I can teach you more in an hour and a half in 1 hour than they've learned in the last 7 years because what they learned is such a joke. So I just made a little mnemonic here. I beep them, okay? So I for intestinal. And the first point of that, we talked about it before, you need your dietary fibers so you don't get abdominal pressure syndrome, constipation, straining at the stool, Valsalva maneuver to increase the pressure because you're pooping instead of a normal fiber-eating plant eater, a cow patty, you're pooping out goat pellets and they don't stretch your rectum. Normally, the fiber adds water to the stool, it stretches your rectum, you get reflex contraction, defecation's effortless. Without that, you get Valsalva maneuver, you have to strain, pushes back pressure, pushes your stomach into the chest, hiatal hernia, gastroesophageal reflux disease, pushes down into your veins in your legs, varicose veins into your balls. Varicocele can cause infertility, into the rectum, hemorrhoid veins. All the veins dilate because of the back pressure. So does a sigmoid colon, get outpouching, diverticulosis. They can pop diverticulitis. Often goes to surgery, sigmoidectomy. Okay, so that's back pressure. Dry stool on the right side, you form appendiculis, fecalis, obstructs the appendix, mucus secreting glands, distal continue until it stretches and pops, appendicitis, okay? So that's fiber, that's intestinal, plus you gotta eat the fiber to maintain the gut lining. Same fiber that maintains the gut lining maintains the blood-brain barrier. If you don't do that, toxins get across the gut and they have exposure to the brain because you have a leaky blood-brain barrier. And then that also predisposes you to autoimmune disease, predisposes you to amyloid clotting, so it increases your risk of heart disease, increases your risk of hypertension, increases your risk of cognitive decline. It's all bad. And autoimmune disease, so you don't want that. So intestinal is a big deal. Eat your fiber and then avoid all the toxic stuff. Avoid alcohol, avoid oils, filter your tap water so you get rid of the fluoride and the aluminum that are both toxic to your gut. Okay, next thing, the blood. And the most important thing in the blood is don't eat a high-fat meal because it sticks your red blood cells together. The chylomicrons do it. The triglycerides do it. The LDL cholesterol does it. Don't eat too much sodium because it vasoconstricts. Then you're pumping thick blood through a constricted system. The reason you have blood pressure to pump blood to the top of your brain, cerebral cortex. So if you're pumping normal blood, it's like water. You got to pump against gravity. If you're pumping thick blood, it's like a milkshake because the red cells are stuck together by the high-fat meals. If you're pumping it through a constricted system because of the sodium, it's vasoconstricted, you got to pump higher. So a typical person, let's say you eat a pizza, full of salt, full of fat, then you're pumping thick blood through a constricted system. You're going to be hypertensive. And if you're drinking caffeine, it's a vasoconstrictor, okay? It's also a stimulant. And it's going to make you hyperlipidemic, okay? And it's going to cause insulin resistance, increase your blood glucose level because it's made to respond to stress. Well, cortisol, catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, that all increases insulin resistance. Plus, it makes you pee out more of your magnesium, so you become magnesium depleted. That worsens your hypertension, okay? It's a vasodilator, the magnesium. All right, anyway, so those are the things that are going to mess up your blood. Plus, if you got leaky gut, then you get amyloid clotting from the bacterial endotoxins that get across the gut and cause an amyloid transition from the alpha helix secondary protein structure, the fibrinogen blood clotting protein, to beta-pleated sheet, stacks up, precipitates out of solution, forms small clots, 2 to 200 microns, refractory to lysis. You start plugging up arteries in your brain, you get stupid in your heart, you get atrial fibrillation, coronary artery ischemia, syndrome X. It's all bad. Okay, you don't want to do that. Okay, so the blood's important. So like Copernicus had figured out the heliocentric view of the universe, that the sun was in the center and not the earth. And okay, I'm giving you the hemocentric view of health, okay? You want healthy blood, which comes from a low-fat, low-sodium vegan diet with no oils. All right, what else? Electrolytes. If you just eat the plants, you get the good stuff. You get the potassium, you get the magnesium, because they're located intracellular. If you process the food, they grind it out, rinse it with water and solvents. They rinse away the potassium and the magnesium, and then they add salt back for taste and as a preservative. So you get processed food is high sodium, low potassium, and magnesium. Causes hypertension. You can't run your plasma membrane sodium ATP pumps, and the cell becomes dysfunctional. You eat the plant foods, you get the good stuff. You get the potassium in high amounts, the magnesium in high amounts, the sodium in low amounts. That's what you're designed to run on. Our ancestors probably ate a K factor of 10 to 20. That's ratio of potassium to sodium. Okay, that's what keeps you healthy. That's why processed foods are always bad, because they always have a messed up potassium-sodium ratio, and they typically will put, brain toxins in there like MSG, monosodium glutamate, manufacturer-free glutamate, MFG. Okay, high fructose corn syrup often contaminated with HG. Okay, mercury. Okay, so you've got to get your electrolytes right. Just eat your plants. That always works. Watch out for EMF. Don't hold your cell phone to the side of your head. Hardwire your house, preferably over Wi-Fi if you have a choice. Watch out for endocrine. There's basically estrogenic chemicals in almost everything because it's a great preservative. It gets its shelf life stability from the benzene ring, and it gets its antimicrobial properties from the hydroxyl group coming off the benzene ring. Together they make a phenol. And it's in all the personal care products. Some of them have 2 or 3 of them, like deodorant has aluminum, metalloestrogen, parabenzoic acids, parabens. Those are also estrogenic, okay? So you really want to be a minimalist, and you want to filter your water. That's how you avoid all that. And then you eat your dietary fiber. You avoid the meat. They'll give estrogens to the animals because their fat storage hormones make the animal fatten it up quicker, get it to market quicker. But it also fattens you up. And the processed food's full of estrogenic chemicals with atrazine sprayed on all the corn, goes into the high fructose corn syrup. The glyphosate sprayed on the soy, that's cheap protein. The corn for cheap sweetener, high fructose corn syrup. So that's why you only want to eat organic. They also spray glyphosate on about 70 other non-organic crops, so you don't want that. And then these all kind of go together. By endothelial, I mean the endothelial membrane, plasma membrane, where you produce nitric oxide. So you want to avoid sodium, you want to avoid high fructose corn syrup because it creates increased uric acid in the blood. That's also an inhibitor of nitric oxide. And the EMF opens up voltage-gated calcium channels, so it'll increase anxiety, increase your risk of insomnia, increase your risk of headaches, also increase your risk of depression. You want to use your speakerphone, and don't use your cell phone so much. It's overrated. What else? The plasma membrane, like I said, the plasma membrane ATP pumps are a battery, and you need the proper amounts of potassium and sodium and magnesium to run them, which means the K factor of at least 5, preferably more like 10 or more. I have lectures on all of this stuff. You go in the playlist, you'll find lectures. You type it into the search menu, you find much more detailed lectures on all this stuff. Okay, then the mitochondria, that's where you produce your energy, about 90% of your ATP. So you want to avoid all the mitochondria inhibitors. I made a long list of all those. I made lists of all the endocrine disruptors. Okay. The other thing is then the basic question is, what makes people sick? Well, I just talked about a whole bunch of things. Almost all the patients over 50, they're hypertensive from eating high-fat, high-sodium diets. That's the gateway disease to cause atherosclerosis, plug up arteries all over the body, including the Johnson, including the heart, including the brain, including the eyes, including the ears. And most of them are pre-diabetic or diabetic. And what's the most common risk factor for insulin resistance for causing diabetes? High-fat diets, okay? High fructose corn syrup contributes to it. Being obese contributes to it. And there's a couple other things. But that's the main thing. Okay, and also when you eat these low-fat, low-sodium vegan diets, you optimize your body weight, and that also helps prevent type 2 diabetes, like the Roy Taylor work. If you can get the patients, all these fat diabetics, to lose 30 or more pounds before they have lost their pancreas function, their diabetes type 2 will reverse. As Dr. McDougall says, by definition, type 2 diabetes is reversible. Okay, and again, you want to get to it fast before you have lost your pancreatic function. I made a list of over 100 mitochondria inhibitors. And then the one thing I would leave here, I put M at the end, the mouth. If nothing is working as well as you expect it to, consider going back to the mouth. Because a lot of people have amalgams leaking Hg, mercury, making them sick. A lot of people have root canals, which could be leaking all kinds of toxic chemicals. They can never fully sterilize them. It's a dead tooth, and they'll get a focus of a cytofocal infection that will seed periodically the blood with bacterial endotoxins. And those can cause all kinds of sicknesses. They've been shown, some cases, to cause multiple sclerosis, some cases to cause multiple myeloma, and other conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, headaches. So you don't want those things. So anyways, that's basically the most important diseases. I explained hypertension and diabetes, the two gateway diseases that cause atherosclerosis. Everything in your body works better with good blood flow. If you're plugging up your arteries with atherosclerosis and you're dropping your oxygen delivery because you're vasoconstricted from the sodium and you got your red blood cells stuck together from the high-fat diets, you're not going to deliver adequate amounts. You're going to deliver suboptimal amounts of oxygen to your tissues, and you're going to have suboptimal function. So now that you know what to do, stop doing the bad things, do the good things, exercise, get your sleep, have, faith in God, have a sense of purpose in your life, makes you more resilient, maintain some type of social network of friends and support system, and get your sunshine, get your exercise, improves your immune system function because it gets your lymphatic fluid, your lymphocytes and whatnot to run all over the body, doing their job, checking everything for self versus non-self, and that's what makes us healthy. We're sort of made to live in extended family groups and walk around all day looking for food and socializing with each other, with the young people helping the old people and vice versa. So I hope you found that helpful.